Humanity built the most technologically advanced civilization in history. Supercomputers in our pockets, global networks, instant access to nearly all recorded knowledge, and somehow ended up spending an enormous amount of money trying to recreate the feeling of being 12. Welcome to the nostalgia economy. In an era of rapid change and digital impermanence, nostalgia is being commodified because it offers a sense of stability, identity, and emotional grounding that modern life increasingly lacks. One of the fastest growing industries on earth is selling people the past. Not the actual past, the improved version, the remastered edition, the director's cut of a memory that may not have happened exactly the way we remembered it. The word nostalgia was coined in 1688 by a Swiss physician named Johann Hofer. At the time, nostalgia was considered a medical disorder. Swiss mercenaries stationed far from home became overwhelmed with longing for familiar places. Doctors documented symptoms that included sadness, anxiety, confusion, and an inability to function normally. 300 years later, humanity has cured almost every part of the condition except the condition itself. Now people experience similar symptoms because a social media platform changed its logo. Progress is a complicated thing. For most of history, nostalgia took time. People became nostalgic for childhood, old friends, or neighbors they hadn't seen in decades. Entire eras had to pass before anyone started looking backwards. Today, people become nostalgic before the trend has even become trending. Teenagers miss internet culture that disappeared 18 months ago, or last week. Entire communities have modern user interfaces. People speak fondly about versions of websites that still technically exist. Humanity has somehow developed same-day shipping for emotional longing. Part of the reason is that previous generations lived inside relatively stable cultural environments. Someone born in 1965, could point to the 70s and 80s. Those eras lasted long enough to become familiar. They had time to settle into people's lives. Today's generations experience something different. They do not remember decades as much as updates. A person born in 2005 has already lived through multiple versions of the internet, multiple social ecosystems, and several distinct technological realities. Entire digital civilizations appear, peak, and disappear before a shopping mall can go out of business. History no longer moves in decades. Alvin Toffler predicted something like this in the 1970s, when he published Future Shock. He argued that people might eventually become overwhelmed by the speed of technological and social change. And at this time, sounded dramatic. Today, people are nostalgic for app icons. If anything, he was underselling the situation. Of course, corporations noticed. Corporations eventually notice everything. Somehow along the way, marketers discovered that nostalgia was not merely an emotion, it was a renewable resource, a mind that never runs dry, a fuel source generated entirely from human memory. This is where Edward Bernays enters the story. Bernays understood that people rarely buy products because they need products. They buy products because they like the story attached to them. The product becomes the identity. The identity becomes desire. The desire becomes profit. Eventually, corporations realize they did not need to invent entire new stories. They could simply sell people old ones. Look around for 5 minutes, and the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The entertainment industry spends billions resurrecting character that should qualify for retirement benefits by now. Shoe companies release limited edition versions of products people already owned 3 or 4 times. Corporations carefully recreate packages from decades ago as though a different font can function as a time machine. Entire marketing departments now operate under the assumption that the future is uncertain, so everyone remembers being 12. Nintendo released of the NES Classic Edition, preloaded with the 1980s games and designed to look like the original console, sold out almost instantly, despite offering experiences easily emulated on modern devices. Coca-Cola has reportedly revived its Share a Coke campaign with retro-style labels and even brought back New Coke as a limited Stranger Things tie-in, turning a decade-old marketing failure into a collectible moment. Every company eventually reaches the same conclusion. What if we sold them Batman again? And somehow the answer continues to be, of course. The most fascinating customers in the nostalgia economy are often the people who are not there. Young people raised on streaming services, hunt for vinyl records, people carrying smartphones more powerful than the computers used during the Apollo program willingly purchase film cameras that occasionally ruin an entire roll of photographs. Others drag home CRT televisions the size of industrial kitchen appliances and treat them like archaeological treasures. Humanity has somehow reached a point where people can become homesick for places they have never visited. It is either beautiful or deeply concerning. The obvious question is why? Why would anyone romanticize technology that was objectively worse? Because technology is not what they actually are buying. Nobody buys a VHS tape because they believe it produces superior image quality. Nobody buys a record because they enjoy carrying furniture-sized music collections between apartments. Something deeper is happening. The modern world is becoming increasingly intangible. The thing that once filled up our shelves has become temporary permissions granted by distant servers. Music lives behind subscriptions, movies appear and disappear, photographs accumulate in digital archives so vast that most people will never look through them again. We were promised ownership and somehow ended up leasing access to our own life. The average day now involves interacting with hundreds of things that possess no physical existence. Conversations arrive as notifications. Money moves as database entries. Work happens inside software. Entertainment streams through invisible networks. Entire careers, friendships, and the communities exist inside systems that disappear the moment somebody forgets to renew a hosting contract. At some point, humanity stopped collecting objects and started collecting logins. This may explain why younger generations keep returning to physical things. Physical objects offer something increasingly absent from a digital file: resistance. A book occupies space whether you want it or not. A record scratches, a photograph fades. The VHS tape slowly deteriorates while completely ignoring your backup strategy. Their flaws are precisely what makes them feel real. The object exists. It can be lost. It can break and survive. It can be found 30 years later in a basement and immediately transport someone back through time. Irony is extraordinary. Humanity spent 50 years trying to eliminate friction, then immediately began paying premium prices to get some of it back. We automated shopping and started visiting farmers markets. We digitized photography and started buying film. We created infinite streaming libraries and started collecting records. We spent decades escaping inconvenience only to discover that convenience is not the same thing as meaning. Marshall McLuhan once suggested that technology changes not only what we do, but who we become. If that is true, modern technology may have transformed us into a species that lives in the future while emotionally shopping in the past. Every year, we demand faster devices become nostalgic for slower experiences. Every day, we automate more of life. Every week, we search antique stores looking for evidence that life once had loading times. Maybe that is what the nostalgia economy really is. Not an economy built around old products or old brands. Not even an economy built around old memories. An economy built around stability. Because beneath all the marketing, all the retro packaging, reboots, remakes, revivals, collector's editions, people are searching for something much older than nostalgia. They're searching for permanence, for familiarity, for a word that sat still long enough to become recognizable. And in civilizations that updates itself every 6 months, permanence may become the most expensive luxury humanity's ever invented. The future finally arrived.